Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something really unique. You've brought us a single source, an address from 1980 by Reverend Sun Myung Moon.
That's right. It's titled Bold and Strong, The Path of the Global Missionary. And what's so powerful about it is who he's speaking to.
Right, this isn't a public sermon.
No, not at all. This is an internal meeting. He's talking to his global missionaries who'd been out in the field for about 5 years at this point, since 75. So you can think of it as a kind of performance review.
By performance review and, well, something much more. Our mission here is to really understand the core demands he was making. It's like an instruction set for how to live, what to report, and even how to suffer.
Exactly. The whole idea was for them to extract what he called eternally important instructive material. And they weren't supposed to find this in a book.
They had to find it through their own raw lived experience.
We're going to break down 3 main things today. First, this mandate of suffering. Second, the demand for a really radical kind of cultural integration.
And third, the timeline. This prediction for the future of civilization and, the movement itself.
And the central idea, the tension through all of it, is that their success was going to be measured by how much hardship they voluntarily took on.
Okay, let's start there with that mandate of suffering. It begins with the reports they had to file. And these were not your typical reports.
Not even close. He wasn't asking for numbers or conversion stats. He asked for documented proof of specific kinds of persecution.
You're talking about detailed accounts of being imprisoned.
Being in prison, being mistreated, being persecuted, shedding tears, having to literally run from the authorities.
So suffering wasn't just a risk of the job. It was the job.
It was the essential work. He even said that his own field of expertise was suffering. These reports were meant to be a living document, a record of suffering for the sake of God.
So the key performance indicator then was how much resistance you faced. Your success was measured by your persecution.
Right. But here's the first twist. The very first difficulty they were asked to report on, it wasn't external persecution. It was internal.
It was about their own teams, overcoming the cultural barriers inside their small missionary groups.
Yes. He called this history-making and virtually impossible. I mean, think about it. You have these small, multicultural teams sent out across the world.
So they weren't just fighting the outside world, they were fighting the pride and the arrogance within their own ranks first.
And he didn't pull any punches with the examples. He gets very specific about the national characteristics he saw clashing.
He does. And imagine you're in that room in 1980. He describes the American member as, always smiling, saying, okay, seems easygoing.
But underneath, potentially proud, arrogant, feeling entitled because they come from the world's leading nation.
Then you have the Journal number. He calls them stubborn, trying to grab everything.
Just relentless, maybe a bit rigid. And then there's the Japanese member. This description is maybe the most telling. He says they're small, slow,
but clinging fiercely to the position of able. Okay, let's pause on that. That's insider language. What does able signify for them?
It's crucial. The able position is the spiritually senior role. Think of the elder brother, the one who was supposed to lead and guide.
And the Japanese members felt they deserved that role.
Yes, because their nation was one of the earliest to join the movement on a large scale. So they felt they had seniority. And that created this incredible internal power struggle against the Americans and the Germans, who were often funding things.
So you've got external hostility and you've got these internal identity politics where your passport kind of dictates your spiritual rank. He says this is impossible to unite. So what was the secret? What was the solution he offered?
It was so simple. It's almost startling. It wasn't a management strategy. It was just try to serve each other.
That's it.
That was it. That act of humility, especially serving the person from the other country that you might deep down resent or dislike.
Yeah.
That was the only way.
And that ties their little team drama directly to the big spiritual mission.
Exactly. He says that by choosing to serve that person you struggle with, you finally get to feel the heart of God. You feel the anguish God feels trying to bring his own stubborn children together.
Your personal suffering validates your entire mission. You're getting this knowledge not from a book, but by, tasting the same pain that God feels.
Right. And from there, he lists the other reports they had to file. The second one was more what you'd expect. Language barriers, culture shock, all of that.
But the third difficulty was about documenting spiritual phenomena.
Yes. Visions, dreams, specifically seeing father and mother embracing them, shedding tears with them in their hardest moments. These supernatural events had to be recorded as if they were historical fact.
And on top of that, they had to record their own investment in people. The source says they needed to document giving their entire heart and soul and mind in prayer just to save one person.
This level of dedication, it elevates them. They aren't just missionaries anymore. He tells them to see themselves as the forefather or Abraham of your nation.
If you're the Abraham of a nation, you're not just a member, you're a founder. You have to look at the country's politics, its culture, everything, from this incredibly responsible point of view.
And that leads into what I think is one of the most remarkable parts of this whole speech, this cyclical view of history and civilization.
He tells them, basically, if your culture isn't on top right now, don't worry about it. Your turn is coming.
It's this idea that cultures revolve with God's blessing, like seasons. And he lays out a very specific sequence for this rotation. It must have sounded absolutely radical in 1980.
He says the white culture, which was obviously dominant then, would decline. It would be succeeded by a new civilization led by the yellow culture.
Then after the yellow culture, leadership shifts to the black culture, then to the Spanish people. And only after all of that would it eventually return to the white race.
That completely flips the script for a Western missionary going to Africa or Asia. You're not there representing some kind of permanent peak of civilization.
You're just part of one stage in a much larger, predetermined cycle. And he uses this beautiful little analogy to drive the point home, the sparrow and the swallow.
Right. The sparrow stays home and boasts about the ecstatic joy of living and eating in the snow.
But the swallow, which travels the world, talks about the beauty of the jungle, the vines, the hot ocean. The point is appreciation. Every culture, every place has its own unique strength and beauty.
And because the missionaries travel, they're supposed to gain this holistic view that a stationary culture just can't have.
And this becomes a direct critique of past Christian missionaries. He says, white missionaries went to other countries assuming they were culturally supreme.
And his missionaries must not make that mistake. He tells them they can't build a cultural fence around themselves, especially not a white Western one. They have to dive in completely.
And this isn't just about behavior, it's visionary. He paints this picture, he calls it an artistic masterpiece. A beautiful white American woman married to a black African husband holding their child.
That's the image of success, that contrasting, harmonized beauty.
That's the dynamic culture they were supposed to be building.
So let's get practical. How are they supposed to operate? The first big instruction was learn Korean and learn it fast.
Yeah, and this was functional. It wasn't just symbolic. The idea was when he visited their country, they could hear him in Korean and translate it directly into the local language. No delay.
And what about building an infrastructure?
Schools. He told them to create and operate schools, supported by all the foreign missionaries in that country. And he specifically recommended language schools, teaching English, German, Japanese.
That's a smart model. It's a sustainable business, and it's a non-threatening way to engage with the local community.
But to build an institution, you need a certain kind of leadership. And here, he holds up Reverend Won Pil Kim as the model.
Now, we have to remember who this guy was. He was one of the very first followers. He had an immense seniority, immense authority.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A man like that, you'd expect him to have a comfortable job at headquarters. Instead, he volunteers to go out as a pioneer missionary, a servant.
And when he gets to New York, he doesn't pull rank on the American leaders.
No, he tries to become a part of the whole.
Yeah.
He serves them. And that act of giving up his status, that was held up as the right way of thinking for every single missionary.
It's this ultimate attitude of humility. You work as hard as you possibly can, and then you come back and say, I am not really adequate. Have mercy upon me and let me do more. You reject any claim to your own achievement.
And then you project that same humility onto everyone you meet. This is the most striking instruction to me. Treat a beggar as a great human being with the same respect you'd show Moon himself.
It's the ultimate test. That serving attitude, given equally to the top leader and the person on the street, that's how you earn the Abel's role. You earn the birthright. It's not given to you.
And the intensity just keeps building.
Yeah.
Culminates with the expectation of martyrdom. Yes, even if you are tortured, thrown in jail, taken to the guillotine, you are supposed to thank God for the opportunity to shed blood for a noble cause.
You connect your own suffering directly back to Jesus, to St. Peter, to St. Paul.
And that framing is critical because right after that, the speech pivots. It gives them a hard deadline for this whole period of struggle.
This is the prophecy. He states that the world is going to be filled with chaos, upheaval, and problems until one specific year, 1988.
That's the date. 1988 is the pivot point. After that, the world will calm down, become more organized. The hostile environment they were facing would just dissipate.
But here's the paradox. Once that calm arrives, the opportunity for this kind of intense foundational work is gone forever.
Right. It's not that people will stop wanting to witness or fundraise. He says everyone will want to do it then, but the necessity, the urgency, the chance to struggle will have passed.
The window of opportunity for hardship is a limited resource. And the legacy of that time, these reports they're writing, what happens to them?
They will become a new holy book, a new Acts of the Apostles.
And future generations will read this book. And the warning is,
The warning is that they will read about all this suffering and they'll say, I wish he could have gone through that, but it will be too late. There will be no more chance to suffer.
the door on that foundational period of hardship will be closed. So the final command to them in 1980 is incredibly urgent.
Uncompromising. If there is a place of suffering or sacrifice anywhere in the world, you volunteer to go there now. Be bold and strong, like Joshua and Caleb about to enter the promised land.
What a remarkable blueprint. So we've seen these two core demands, absolute documented suffering and this really radical cultural integration.
All of it tied to this very specific timeline, this pivot point of 1988.
I think the most counterintuitive idea from this whole deep dive is this mindset of scarcity being applied to hardship, that the path to spiritual growth is this difficult, persecuted one.
And that path has an expiration date. The chance to struggle for this cause is a precious commodity. It's something future generations will actually be jealous of.
Which fundamentally reframes how you think about sacrifice. If the chance for that profound struggle just vanishes, does the meaning you get from it also diminish?
The source seems to imply that it does, that the pain you feel today becomes the revered scripture of tomorrow.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. In your own life, what experiences of voluntary hardship, what sacrifices might become a cherished record for the people who come after you? And are you really engaging with those difficult, limited opportunities while you still have the chance? Thanks for diving deep with us.